Was I took a business book out of the library, and it was how to make money, earthworms for fun and profit. And I set up an earthworm bin, and for the ages of 12 and 13, from every late spring till winter started to bite in, I would go up to the lake, and I would take a bucket, and I would sell worms for 6 for a dime. Now, mind you, that was a long time ago, and I made $20 a week. And at 12, 13 years old, especially back then, it was good money. But of course, when I went into high school, 14 years old, they found out what I was doing, and that's not cool, and of course, you give it up. But it's always sat there. I've gone off and had careers in other things. My last one was educational software, which I just left, and got tired of the software world and decided I was going to start Nature's Little Recycler, earthworm cultivation. And basically, in the state of Illinois, earthworms are livestock. And you want them to be. There's a big set of differences in laws, and you've got to look at the laws of your local area and how they treat animals. In the state of Illinois, except for the city itself, which has a few different rules on dogs and cats, most animals are marked livestock. So that's tilapia and everything else. And which means we have our largest range of rights for the animals. It means the animals can sometimes get abused by some of the big corporate companies. But from our point of view, from my point of view, the state doesn't interfere with what I basically do with my worms. As long as I keep healthy conditions. So I don't endanger people. And so that's basically it. And you want to see, if you're not squeamish, these are some of my friends. You can take a look at it. And instead of plants microgreens, you can see these are basic red worms. And they're eating right now microgreens from last week. And okay, so why get into earthworms? How many of you already know what earthworms can do? Compost, fertilizer, okay. No need to go over that. We know that it produces a high-grade form of fertilizer. And that's really where my first places in the business would be. Earthworms do 3 major things. They shred food down to make bacterial load that basically breaks things down to release the food. From an urban farmer's point of view, everything is being done with compost. You do not really, in most cases, want to dig into the earth. And I'm not going to get into the vagaries that there are a lot more people who are expert on that, about the vagaries of it. But you need a really good organic fertilizer. The second thing the problem does is that we have huge amounts of organic waste in the city. I'm talking to Starbucks now. 30 Starbucks are going to produce over almost a ton of coffee grounds every 2 days. Yeah, and guess where all that stuff goes? Landfill. In fact, organic material, which is the easiest thing to recycle, is actually the most neglected recyclable in our system. 97.5%, according to Waste Management coming in, is diverted to landfill, and only 2.5% is commercially processed out. That's growing, that's changing, but that is what Waste Management says as of 2010. So basically, an earthworm model for me, raising earthworm down the plant. If you guys want to see my operation, we can arrange to take you a tour downstairs. I'm basically looking to get what they call tipping fees, or the money that they would put into a landfill to take organic waste off of companies' hands and other people's businesses, and they pay me. That's free food stock for me, plus I get the cost of transportation and hopefully a little bit more. I feed it to the earthworms, who then grow happy, double their size every 90 days. Yes, and that's really industry standard. And let me tell you, I'm having results of about 42 and 43 days. But that takes a lot of extra work. There's a lot of things to do so. And then they eat half their body weight a day. Sometimes more, sometimes less, temperatures and all that. But that's kind of the industry standard. I'm running about 60%. And that compost comes out to have a value of as little as $2 bag, which I'll be selling for $2.99, to $300 a ton is what I want to produce. And I want to start producing it at about a ton a week. This can be then added 5 to 1 to regular topsoil, to compost, to build them the sort of, give them a nice beginning fertilizer base, and also start a bacterial and sort of microbe load that helps out with it. The nice thing about it is I can take human foods, and earthworms have no common ground. They cannot carry a human pathogen. So as they eat the material, they basically take out human pathogens. We're very fortunate that they have a big technology. So the last thing I do is sell the compost, but you can also sell earthworms, which are going at the minimum of $15 a pound. That's right, filet mignon is cheaper than a pound of earthworms. So the next time somebody says they're feeding you earthworms, take it as a great compliment. And that's a minimum, that's wholesale. And that's where my wholesale price has been set. I'm the lowest in the industry right now because I'm trying to get it done. And then you can sell it to pet stores. You can sell it to other composters. And right now, most of the earthworm business is a little bit of a pyramid scheme in that most people who are getting into the business are hoping to sell to other composters. Be aware of that, that their goal is to set up other earthworm farms. My goal is to actually produce compost and create a great deal of earthworms. And what I want to get into, my final step, and whether it's going to make it worthwhile for me, is aquaponics. A lot of people are going to talk to you about aquaponics, but there is one unsustainable product that's ending up in the aquaponics world. And that is a lot of them are using fish meal, and fish farms are using fish meal, which is 5.8 million tons of it. And now, because it's getting so excellent, it's no longer just scrap tuna, it's no longer just scrap salmon, it's no longer just scrap plants. They're actually now having to go into South America and go for foraging fish. Yes, they're now going down to the next level, and they've begun drag nets for that. Because it's becoming unsustainable to make fish meal, which is now huge demand. Once that demand hits, and they're expecting it by 2017 because of the growth of aquaponics, to get up to 8 million tons. Fortunately, our friends right here are actually, and I'm continuing my research, are nutritionally almost identical to fish. And where the differences are in the better. And this is a sustainable product. So for my long-term, how I hope to make money someday is to make fish meal, vermin meal, for aquaponics, which is going to be huge, starting here in Chicago. And when I accomplish that, I hope to displace an unsustainable practice. So my whole business is about taking unsustainable food practices and making sustainable solutions, from waste management to finally replacing food of another kind so we can have good fish. And that's Nature's Little Recyclers by Paganics. If you have any questions, feel free. I've got flyers, and I guess who's next? There you go. Well, do you want to ask a question? Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So how do you actually get the worms to reproduce themselves?
They do it really easily.
Okay,
they're actually worms are orgies. Okay. Well, here. Okay. Worms are a bit of orgies. They are hermaphrodites. It takes 2 of them to breed, but they both inseminate each other. And they lay eggs every 2 weeks. And the eggs are 2 to 20 Ks, huh?
Nothing special is done, they just let them do
Temperature. Temperature and moisture. Crucial, your temperature and moisture. If your temperature is between, it's right for their thing, I won't get that technical, but the temperature and moisture.
What is it?
For redworms it's 66, African night crawlers is 77, Europeans are 62. That's why the basement of the plant's been so good. I haven't been able to bring in Africans, and Canadians are about 60. Huh?
I have a question about vermin meal.
Yeah.
Does it exist now?
It does. It's been in labs. It's been tested in Australia. It's been tested in Palestine. It has not been established here except by Michigan.
How would you harvest those little worms into vermin meal? Sounds tricky.
Well, this is separated. I'm going to have a harvester. I have a harvester that will separate the compost, the eggs, the casings, and the fish. And at that point, actually, I'm going to take them and dump them into, working with a couple of people to dump them into spirulina. Have them feed on a couple of days of spirulina, clean their guts. Load. You blanch them, dry them, powder them, add them with another agent, and you extrude them. Right? It's just like any sort of how they do it with fish meal. So.
Ed, can you talk a little bit about taking food residuals and composting with worms and the production of castings? Is there sort of a target ratio where you've got X percentage of castings versus other organic residual from the food that would make the ideal compost? Is there anything to that?
Okay, I think if I understand you right, castings as a whole is super rich. It's got high phosphorus, potassium. It depends on what, and again, it depends on what the source food is. Not all worm castings are the same. Let me go ahead and tell you right now. One of the things I'm going to try to do differently is I'm going to start marking on my bags just what's inside there, because they can be very, very different because of what they're eating. But right now, so the castings can be made out of anything. Understand, worms eat anything. So newspaper, things like that. So if you're asking what to mix it with, I've been telling people 5 or even 10 to 1 ratio, or just put it on top. Treat it as a fertilizer more than you treat it as topsoil.
Treat castings
As fertilizers instead of topsoil. You can grow in really that, but it really doesn't require that much. It depends on your plants.
So then I guess the follow-up question is with large-scale production, I haven't seen your
Okay.
but I'd like to see one here today. How can you concentrate or separate out the castings from the other material then if that's...
Oh, once the worms are done?
Yeah.
I'll explain it to you. It's virtually all castings.
Okay.
I convert everything to castings. I mean, what comes out of it is what I'm looking for.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Thanks.
All right, well...
Okay.